The United States was born with a fatal contradiction, a house divided against itself. In the North, industry boomed. Smokestacks and railroads symbolized a future built on free labor. But the South ran on the forced labor of 4 million. Its entire economy depended on King Cotton. Westward expansion forced the issue. Bleeding Kansas became a violent preview of the war to come. The 1857 Dred Scott decision denied citizenship to Black Americans, pushing the nation to the edge. The 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln was the final straw. The South saw it as an existential threat. Southern states seceded one by one. They formed the Confederacy to protect slavery. April 12, 1861. Confederate cannons fire on Fort Sumter. The House divided was finally at war. The war's second year opens grimly for the Union. In the East, a new Confederate commander emerges, Robert E. Lee. Lee achieves stunning victories. The 7 days, Second Bull Run. He drives Union forces back in defeat. But President Lincoln counters with a new weapon. Not a gun, but an idea, the Emancipation Proclamation. The war is no longer just about preserving the Union. It is now a moral crusade to destroy slavery. This move aims to stop foreign recognition of the South. Yet, Lee's momentum seems unstoppable. May 1863, at Chancellorsville, he delivers his most brilliant and costly victory. This is the Confederacy's high water mark. Morale is at its peak. Lee believes one more push could win it all. He decides on the ultimate gamble, a full-scale invasion of the North, targeting Pennsylvania. At Gettysburg, Lee stakes everything on a final, desperate assault on the Union Center. It is Pickett's charge. The men march into a storm of Union cannon fire. It is a catastrophe. Lee's army is shattered. He will never again launch a major invasion of the North. Just 1 day later, hundreds of miles west, Vicksburg surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant. These twin disasters are the definitive turning point. The Confederacy is cut in two. Lincoln has found his general. Grant unleashes a new strategy, total war. He relentlessly pounds Lee's army, absorbing casualties to grind them down. In the West, General Sherman carves a path of destruction, marching to the sea, breaking the South's will. By April 1865, the capital falls. Lee surrenders. The House divided is reunified by force. But what if? The razor's edge where what happened meets what might have been. In our timeline, the Union held, but history is never inevitable. We now cross that line. July 3, 1863. The moment the Union center did not hold. The Confederate artillery barrage erupts. This time, the smoke clears not on an intact line, but on chaos. The Union cannons are silent. 12,500 men in gray advance, their rebel yell echoing across the field. They crash into the stone wall, a desperate, swirling melee of bayonets and rifle butts. The line wavers, then the unthinkable. The Union line snaps. First one man, then a dozen. The entire center dissolves in panic. The retreat becomes a rout. The Army of the Potomac is broken. The road to Washington is open. The Union Army is shattered. Lee's victorious forces march, unopposed, on Washington, D.C. Panic grips the capital. Archives are packed in haste. Defense is empty. The Confederate Army is at the gates. The defeat ignites the North's anti-war anger. Riots explode in New York, spreading to other cities. Peace Democrats gain momentum. They demand an end to the failed war. The government is paralyzed. News of the victory crosses the Atlantic, landing like a bombshell in Europe's capitals. For London and Paris, this is the proof. The Confederacy has proven its viability. The decision is made. Great Britain and France formally recognize the Confederate States of America. They offer mediation and demand the Union lift its naval blockade. It's an ultimatum backed by the Royal Navy. 1864. The Union is failing. The war is a bloody, unpopular disaster. Public morale is gone. The Democratic Party nominates George McClellan. His promise, immediate peace. The 1864 election is a referendum on the war itself. Lincoln's Union or McClellan's peace. The results are a landslide. The people vote for peace. Abraham Lincoln is defeated. The winter is a bitter interregnum. A lame duck president watches his nation prepare to dissolve. 1865. In Paris, the new administration meets the Confederates under the gaze of European powers. The Treaty of Paris is signed. The United States recognizes the independence of the Confederate States. The war is over. The Union is dissolved. Two nations now share the continent, permanently divided. The war ends, but peace does not. A hostile Cotton Curtain divides the continent, sparking a new Cold War. In the North, defeat fuels a dark industrial revolution. The USA rearms, building steel factories and a navy. The South remains King Cotton. But its victory is hollow. The economy is weak, dependent on one crop. The CSA dreams of a golden circle in the Caribbean, but it is now an economic pawn of Great Britain. And the core issue remains. For decades, millions and their children are still held in bondage. By the 1890s, the world changes. Britain, their key ally, pressures the CSA to end slavery. Facing isolation, the Confederate government buckles. Slavery is, at last, officially abolished. This is not freedom. The chains are replaced by laws, a rigid system of segregation, and American apartheid. When Europe explodes in 1914, the USA and CSA watch each other as much as the war. The CSA, tied economically to Britain, joins the Allies. The USA follows. They are partners, but not true allies. But the arsenal of democracy is divided. A flood of American steel becomes a trickle. The war lasts longer. The trenches demand more. Europe bleeds for extra years, its ruin absolute. A generation later, a new shadow falls. In 1941, the Axis forces the two Americas into a reluctant alliance, but deep mistrust remains. Their armies refuse to share intelligence or operate under a unified command. The war in the Pacific is a bloody, two-front crawl. Victory is delayed at a terrible cost. This delay changes everything. The Red Army liberates half of Europe. The world map is redrawn in a darker shade of red. The new Cold War isn't bipolar. The USA faces two threats, the Soviet one and a hostile one at home. America's global power is hobbled, forced to defend a vast, militarized American wall on its soil. The CSA, a white supremacist state, becomes an international pariah, mirroring apartheid South Africa. Inside, its rigid segregation system creates a pressure cooker. A new generation of black activists rises. This resistance is not alone. The USA funds the movement in a bitter proxy war. By the 1980s, the CSA explodes. The civil rights struggle becomes a violent urban war. The regime responds with brutal force, turning its cities into occupied zones. As the 1990s dawn, the CSA is a failed state, consumed by violence. The USA, though victorious, is hollowed by division. 2025. This is not a border, it is a scar. The American Wall, the most heavily armed frontier on Earth. The United States is a technological giant, its cities gleaming. But it is not the superpower of our history. The Confederacy is an authoritarian pariah state. Its fragile economy, built on inequality, is isolated and unstable. Without a dominant America, the world is fractured. A multipolar order led by a powerful China and a unified Europe. This entire reality, this fractured, unstable world. It all balances on the razor's edge of a few hours in 1863. One charge that succeeded instead of one that failed. One general's gamble that paid off, changing the world. It reminds us that history is not a river, but a branching stream. A single choice creates a new, unimagined world. A world that is separated from our own by one divergence point.